Well, hello and welcome back. I'm Brad Fain with Living a Good Life, and I'm here today with Makayla Chadwick, who is representing the Prescott area young professionals. Mm-hmm. You're also a business owner.
Yes.
Have a business in town. And so today we're going to learn a little bit about you.
Okay.
Kind of how you got here. I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listeners, or give us a little bio on Makayla and how you ended up in Prescott, Arizona. And then we'll dive into a couple different topics.
Perfect. Well, my favorite subject is myself. So
Perfect.
This is very easy.
You're the right place. We love to hear about you.
What brought me to Prescott? So originally, as far as State Farm goes, I moved here for my State Farm office. So that's where an opportunity was. That's what brought me here. And when I moved here in exactly 4 years ago, actually, I didn't know a single person. So when I tell people I started my business from scratch, I literally started from scratch. I didn't know a single person, and I was my first customer. So as far as my path to come here, I'm from Wyoming. So my husband and I are born and raised there, and all of our family still lives there. We're actually going to be going down for Christmas. This is the first Christmas we've gone down since we moved. And we really wanted to find a place that was small town feel.
Okay.
Had the outdoors. My husband's a very big hunter. We could bring our horses. We could have a place for our kids to grow, but that offered more opportunities for our kids. Okay. Wyoming is absolutely beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful place in the world for 3 months out of the year. And then you have 9 months of winter. Here we have seasons. It's incredible. There's also just a lot more opportunities. So specifically Prescott Valley, what drew me here was the mission for kids. So there's just so many different schools. There's different charter schools, opportunities. There's a playground and a park on pretty much every little neighborhood. And there's just so many more things for kids to do to stay busy. Wyoming, it's hard because there's lots of outdoors activities, but because you have winter 9 months out of the year, it's challenging to find different activities that kids can participate in. So that's what we were looking for. And my dad actually graduated from Prescott College. So
okay, so there's the connection.
There's
so
the connection.
My next question was
Why
so when you're Googling places to live,
Yes.
how did you Google and come up with Prescott Valley?
Right. So when I was looking at State Farm opportunities, my aunt was a State Farm agent and she retired. So I originally applied to take over her agency, but they chose and they went a different route, and that would have been in Utah. And my husband said the only other state he was open to was Arizona because hunting.
Okay.
It's the only other option. So I looked at Arizona and there was an opening in Prescott. And so I started talking about it, and I had remembered my mom saying when my dad graduated and they came down here to look at it, she loved it. She said it was so beautiful. The weather was perfect. It wasn't what you think of normal Arizona to be super, super hot. Mm-hmm. It was just an ideal climate. And so the more I dove into it, the more we looked at it and discussed, it seemed like a perfect fit. So I applied for the position, and they had two different options. There was one to take over a book of business and one to start scratch. And they convinced me to start scratch. So that's the route that I went down, and it worked out perfectly. I can't say I would change anything. And we went and we looked at houses in October. We bought a house in December, and then my agency opened the following April.
So 4 years ago. So this was all in 2020?
2020, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
So 2020, the COVID year.
The COVID year.
Pandemic going on. You decide to pack up Wyoming, move to Prescott, not knowing a single person, and start a business from scratch.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Awesome. And you're here.
And
you're still going strong.
Still going strong, yeah.
Well, good for you.
So thank you.
Well, so tell us a little bit about Prescott area youth leadership.
Yeah.
How you found out about them, why you joined, and that you're president now. So kind of tell us a little bit of why is it important for young professionals to have a group, and kind of what your mission is with the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was going through the process to become a State Farm agent, they assign you a different mentor. So you have a mentor that's typically a pretty successful agent, has been an agent for a very long time. Mm-hmm. The agent that I was assigned is a very successful agent out of Scottsdale. He started his agency about 20 years ago, 4 years ago. And his biggest piece of advice to me was find a group of young professionals who are starting their businesses with you. And he said, and create those lifelong relationships and build your businesses together. And once you get to my shoes, you're 20 years in, you've had 20 years of successful businesses. And now you have these incredible connections with people who grew with you. And those are invaluable referrals, business relationships that will help strengthen your business and your network. And so giving me that message, that's really what I was looking for. Networking is a huge part of how my business became successful because I really put myself in the community as much as I possibly could. And the young professionals were a big part of that because if you look at the demographics, so if I look at my customer base, 60% of my customers are over the age of 50.
Okay.
So
doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise you, right? Yep. That's what we hear. Like we're in a retirement community, which is true, but also Prescott Valley is growing with families. You know, this is definitely a town that wants to include families, that wants the community to be connected and really wants them to grow. And the young professionals are the future of that to continue that positive and healthy growth in our community. So joining the young professionals, finding a group of like-minded individuals who were in business kind of at a similar stage that I was really important and valuable to me. There are plenty of other networking groups through the chambers, through the SMP, BNI, and a lot of those, you know, can be intimidating to young professionals that aren't really sure what they're doing. They don't know if they belong here. They're like, I don't know if I'm experienced as these people. You know, it can be uncomfortable. So finding a network of young professionals that understand exactly where you are in business is important. So I found the young professionals because it is a branch of the chamber. I remember filling out, like they tell you as an agent, you need to join your local chambers. And then it said young professional group. And I'm like, that's what that agent was talking about. I need to join. So I joined right away, immediately made great connections that I still have today that are still on the core team. The core team is essentially the board for young professionals.
Okay.
But again, being young professionals, it's called core and not a board because we're learning how to be on a board so that we can be successful board members of other organizations as we grow in our career.
Great.
So there's a lot of really great reasons why this group exists and what we are doing and the mission to get where we are. So when I joined, it was right after COVID, which a lot of things kind of fell apart. So we're in a very big rebuilding phase.
Okay. So other than networking, because it sounds like there's a lot of great networking opportunities, is there anything else that the organization offers its members, like support or guidance as you're a young professional trying to grow your business or get into a company and grow your career? Any support that way, or is it primarily networking and having just a great network to help you?
No, absolutely. It's a combination of many things. So the mission is connect, educate, and impact. So connect obviously is that networking piece, which is crucial. And then education as well. We do several education events throughout the year. This year we do some that are more fun. So like an art class, a collage, resume writing, different things like that. And then other classes that are more educational. We've had some really great speakers about understanding personalities in business. We've had, conversations about taxes, how to start up a business. So there are a lot of educational events that we host throughout the year to tie into that piece of really fostering a young professional in their career, whatever it is, and learning from different people who have met that success. So education's a big piece. And then also impact being our volunteer efforts, giving back to the community. We want to be as in the community as we can be, because being connected with the networking piece, but also giving back is huge. So that's really the aim. I think that helps any business grow, is seeing people involved. You want to support a business. You want to buy from that business. You want to connect with that business if you see them giving back. And so really teaching our young professionals that that's a very key tool and giving them opportunities to do that.
So you mentioned that 60% of your customers in your business are over the age of 50. So we'll just use that as our official demographic study for today's conversation.
It's a rough number.
So if 60% of our market is over 50, is there a way that group that's 50 and over can engage and help with Prescott area young professionals if they want to? Because there's people like me that are like, yeah, we need young professionals. We need the next generation coming up and we need new leaders. This is a circle of life. And as you get older, you fall off and you need people coming up behind us. Yeah. So how can others who maybe don't qualify as a young professional, how can they help?
Yeah, I think that's a great option because we're always looking to, the main view of this organization, what we're trying to do, our mission, our goal is to grow so that we can grow this big, strong group of young professionals to continue the growth of our area. As far as mentors. We are looking at trying to figure out how to have more of a collaboration with mentors, trying to figure out exactly what that would look like and tie into the current events that we do without taking on too much because we are still a small group. We are looking for, any business sponsors that want to contribute and be so similar to what the chambers do, where they have a sponsorship where you support the organization throughout the whole year. We're looking for business sponsorships that want to help the young professionals with this mission. And then we're able to do more of these events, host maybe more of a mentoring event to kind of collaborate. But it's hard when we're so small. But also, anyone of any age is welcome to any Prescott area young professionals event, except the one this month, which is a member only thank you, which is our ugly sweater party. But anyone of any age is always welcome to every single event.
I know some of those 50, 60-year-olds might have some good ugly sweaters. You don't want to knock them out.
They
might have some vintage
That's a really
stuff in
good
their
point.
closet.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
They might win.
They might. I know. We can have that kind of competition though. We still need to keep it young and fun and hip and all those things. But, as far as having a good mentorship base, that's something we're working on. I also, want our young professionals to be more involved with other community service groups that probably do have more of that demographic that can be more of a mentor. So I'm personally a part of the Prescott Valley Early Bird Lions Club and the Prescott Frontier Rotary. And most of the demographic in those groups are older. And they have been incredible customers of mine, friends of mine, great connections to have in business. And, I do want to teach more of our young professionals that that those are also great groups to connect in. So they're a part of the young professionals group, but that's them learning how to have confidence in being a part of a nonprofit organization or community service organization and teach them to also branch out into those other groups.
Okay, great.
Kind of a mission too.
So what I really want to get into a little bit with you is you have a good lens on the young professionals in our community, in our region.
Yeah.
This is all about living a good life.
Right.
And everybody has a different path and a different definition of living a good life. Kind of help us understand from your perspective, your peer group of young professionals, where are they being successful in living a good life? And then I want to kind of touch on and where are the challenges that you think maybe we as a community need to address so that we can keep fostering. Because I think a community is strong when you have all the spectrums of life. Right. You have the kids, like you mentioned, it goes school system, place for the kids and families. You have young professionals, you have mid professionals, and you have people that are retiring, but they have a lot of experience that they're bringing with them.
Right.
And all of that together makes a great community to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they all need to be strong. So I kind of want to check in with the young professionals and see where you guys strong and where do you see are your biggest hurdles to being able to fulfill living a good life here in Yavapai County and Central Arizona.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the young professionals have, they have an advantage with the social media and the AI, the chat GPT. Ashley and I talk about it all the time. It helps me. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool. So I think the edge that the young professionals have that makes maybe our jobs a little bit easier than they would have been 20 years ago doing the same thing is the ability to learn quickly with this new technology. It makes sense to us. It's something we're already using, and having that edge on social media has been a great tool to have as a young professional, which again may be different for a different demographic might have a harder time with that. So I think when it comes to business, that's something that is definitely helps build a good life when you have that kind of confidence and background, because those are the marketing tools that really help you grow.
Well, it gives you a bigger reach. And another avenue to reach a lot of people with, very little time.
Right. Right. But in the same point, it can also be a bit of a crutch, right? You might be losing some of those personal connections that you build, which is why it's important to branch out into those other smaller communities I mentioned, like the Rotary clubs, the Lions clubs. So you're still building those interpersonal connections and building those lifelong relationships and having mentors while you're doing service. So, it's a catch-22, but it is a strength.
Okay.
A big hurdle that I see in our area, specifically what I speak for with myself in Prescott Valley and what I see with myself as a small business owner, fellow business owners that are in the young professionals group, and also, I mean, even my employees, my team members, is the childcare issue, balancing the home and family life. That's, I'm sure it's always a challenge, right? So figuring out what the balance is, not working too hard and constantly chasing the carrot, right? To always be better, always grow, always, I got to go, 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 go. That's been a big challenge for me too, is learning what you have the capacity to do and what you can't. And also the hurdle, I mean, childcare is very, very expensive. It's very hard. It's very expensive. We don't have a ton of options around here. Most of my friends that I know, their kids are on wait lists to get into preschools, or there aren't preschools that take babies or little kids. So I used to bring my baby to networking events. That's not always reasonable though. Now that he's a toddler, he's pretty destructive. It wouldn't help with my connections. So, you know, that's something that I see as a challenge in our area. I know it's a challenge everywhere, but definitely something that I've seen personally with my team members. You know, it's a challenge when you have a sick kid or you can't get them into a school or you're on a wait list. And I know a lot of our young professionals would be more involved. They would show up to more mixers. They would be more involved in the community if there were more childcare options.
More access to childcare. So Prescott Valley recently, in the last year or so, approved building a YMCA in partnership with the Prescott. Is that something that would be helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I know they have programming.
They do. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's full childcare or not, but I know they have a lot. They take care of a lot of kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Those programs, and then the Boys and Girls Club, you know, they're huge because they help. They're a great after school program. They're a great option for kids. I see a big need with the babies because a lot of schools or preschools don't take infants under 2. So that's a big one that definitely is still a big need in our area. And then just also more affordable options. When both my kids, before my daughter started kindergarten, between the two of them, I mean, we were paying $1,500 a month in childcare. You know, that's crazy. A lot of money. Yeah. So, you know, and not every family can do that. So many people just, you know, stay home or they try to start their own at-home daycare, you know, different options like that. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge with young professionals, but not that it's much different than any other community or maybe 10, 15 years ago. I know my mom had the same struggle. So probably one of those things that's never going to go away. But, you know, with the cost of how expensive it is to live, that's just one more thing that I think holds back our young professional community from being more involved and making more of those connections, being out there more.
So cost of living, and specifically daycare, childcare, the right activities.
Yeah.
Great. So social media is a strength.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you guys navigate? And maybe it's different in your line of business, but I see a lot of social media and we track it as an organization, where it's like marketing and you're sharing good news and you're sharing information and it's collaboration, which is great because it's building branding and getting people connected. And then that helps you grow your business.
Right.
And I see another side of social media where people are just venting and complaining.
Oh, yeah.
Like Nextdoor and those platforms. So how do you navigate that as a young professional, or does that impact your business at all?
Yeah. No, that's a hard one, especially when you have a company, you know, like State Farm. You know, not everybody loves State Farm. Some people may have had a really bad experience. So people can easily go online and say, oh, State Farm did this horrible things. It's hard to not take it a little personal because that's the brand I represent. That's my livelihood. My name's right next to it, you know? So I think it's important to, again, work-life balance, I think that comes into play here too, is knowing your boundaries and knowing that, you know, time is money, right? So what is your worth? Is your worth spending 20 minutes where you're getting aggravated and upset by looking at these things? You need to learn to just kind of step away and walk away. And a lot of that comes with age, I think, too. So, you know, I look at myself. So before I came to State Farm, I was a branch manager at Wells Fargo. Also a very hard company to represent, right? People just have... Well,
the bigger the brand, the more good and bad is going to come with it. It has a lot with it.
And when I was working for them, it was after, you know, a lot of big scandals happened, and they would just come in and just let you have it as it may have nothing to do with you, but you're representing that brand they have an issue with, right? So knowing your worth and knowing that, you know, I used to get into arguments with people and try and defend the brand when there's really no use. Like, my time is better spent doing other things. I think it's a maturity to learn to just not look at the negativity and choose what you look at, choose what you involve yourself in. I know my dad loves to start the day with the news every day. That's not for me because I don't want to know all the bad things that are going on right now. So I want to start my day with a positive book or listening to a podcast or, something else to start my day. It's choosing how to spend your time in a way that's going to fulfill your life and not bring it down. You only have so much time, especially as a small business owner. You're constantly working on your business, thinking about your business. Your time is valuable and you need to know how to spend it in a way that's going to help you get to the next level and not take you down.
Great. So as a community, how can we do a better job from your perspective as a young professional in cultivating and growing our community to be stronger from a young professional's perspective? I think a lot of it is these really great events, the community events. I think that the town of Prescott Valley especially does such a great job. The Winter Spectacular, the Halloween event, the Easter event, all of those things, the more you can get people out doing things. I know that you guys here did the Day of the Dead event as well. And the, I can't remember what you called the Christmas one, but the one with Whoville?
Yes.
The Christmas Village in
Yes,
Whoville?
the Christmas Village. All of those activities, when people can go out, they run into people that they know. The more public community events that are free to the community, like Prescott Valley's really trying to do, are all really good avenues to grow and foster community. I think when people know that they can go to an event and they're not going to shell out a ton of money and their kids can have a great time, they're going to show up. They're going to come. They're going to run into people that they know, and they're going to build those relationships. And that's really the foundation of, I think, the mission of Prescott Valley is really growing a strong community, having our children involved in things that are positive, giving them something to always do. There's always an activity or something going on every weekend. They're not getting into trouble because they're so bored they have nothing to do, right? There's always something going on to keep them busy, to work on. There's so many different activities. Also, just local businesses putting money into the sports, the soccer groups, the cheerleading, the football, all of these young activities and young clubs, the 4-H clubs. My daughter's in the 4-H, but there's not a ton of involvement from the community in these groups. But the more volunteers, the more businesses can volunteer to be a 4-H leader or donate to their kids' soccer club or craft activity. The library does a lot of really good things. All of those free, engaging events that keep our youth busy are going to help them as they grow, and they're the next generation of young professionals. Because as a young professional, that's what I want to see my kids doing. I want them to follow a constructive path. I want them to be busy, and I want them to do things that I can afford to go do, because we already talked about the cost of living. Yeah. So these free events are so important to the community.
So as I grew up, I grew up here in, and we still say it today, but as I grew up and through today, we say one of our strongest resources in the area is we export our youth. We educate them, and then they go to college and we ship them away because we don't have jobs for them.
Right.
So what would you say is the job market and the opportunity for young professionals? What I kind of heard in what you were saying there is, I want to live here. I want to raise my family. I want them to have productive things to do so they stay out of trouble. Yeah. But ultimately, I'd like them to do the same thing I'm doing, which is kind of implies stay here and have an opportunity so your family can grow around you. Are we doing a good job? Is there a good opportunity for young professionals that you see?
So I think it's growing. I think it's hard in Prescott specifically. I know they're a little bit more landlocked, and there's, maybe you'll see like a new business come up, and then it doesn't necessarily, I'll see some that, a lot of businesses open and close. Like, it's just a hard economy. However, I think that Prescott Valley is on the right track. I think there's a lot of new businesses opening up. I think the Chamber of Commerce does a really good job, both of them, Prescott and Prescott Valley, of supporting these new businesses and giving them the tools to grow. That's what we need, because every new business and every entrepreneur is going to have job opportunities and job offers. I also know, the Yavapai College, they have a new program, a mentorship program, which I was able to help with last year. It was their first year doing it. And I got to mentor I can't remember exactly what the business course is, but it's it's basically a business leadership course. You get a mentorship from a local business owner in the community. And they have quite a variety. There was, a lawyer, a toy store, myself as an insurance agent, just a bunch of different opportunities. Those kind of programs at the college, even if we did more of that at the high school, teaching our youth what is out there and what opportunities there are is all contributing to having more lasting jobs and job opportunities in our area. I also think it's a hiring perspective though. So if we look at, my demographic with my agency, the age 50 and older, I know they can be a little pickier on what they hire sometimes. Do you have the resume? Do you have the job experience? Do you have this? I have hired a few people who had nothing at all to do with insurance, had no idea. But I think if we change our view on having exactly the accreditation that we're requiring or the right piece of paper that says they have the experience to do the job, and we hire based on people who they are, what they can do, their openness to learn, their openness to work hard, and we hire with a different perspective, we're going to give more people a chance than we would have otherwise. So I'm a believer in giving people a chance who may not meet the exact job qualifications, but if they show me they have the heart for it, they want to work for it, and they have the willingness to learn, I can make anybody sell insurance. I can teach anybody how to do the job, but you have to have the right mindset to want to do the job and to want to grow. Where I'll interview people who have maybe all the experience, but I can tell right away they're not going to put their heart into it. And that's what's important. So I think, also just a mind change of who we're hiring, why we're hiring them. That's going to help our job force because we're not just sending everyone away like, oh, no, you're not good enough. Go to Phoenix. Go find something that you can do. Yeah. We want to involve our youth, do more of these internships, teach more people. Maybe they don't even realize like insurance sounds pretty boring. People probably aren't graduating high school and college saying, I want to be an insurance agent, but they might not know the opportunity because they haven't explored it. I think the area has a lot more to offer than people realize as far as job opportunities. I came from a town of 2,000 people. Let me tell you a place that doesn't have job opportunities. If you don't know someone who knows someone who knows someone, you're not getting hired or you work in the oil field. Here, there is growth. There is the support to own your own business. There are the groups to do it. There is the backing of the community that wants our small business to spend money here and to grow. I mean, that's the strength of this community. And I think people should be a lot more optimistic because I think we're doing a great job. And I see a lot of my friends, you look at the young professionals, almost everyone on the board owns a small business or works for one.
Okay. So we had somebody here a while back and they talked about, how they got their start and really what their message was, be curious. Yep. There's lots of opportunity out there. Look for it. So what I heard a little bit in what you were saying as an employer, be curious about the job market. Yeah. The pool of candidates that can work for you and don't judge them by, the paper they walk in with is their resume that says they may or may not have the right experience. Yep. But if we remain curious, there's lots of opportunity both for people to find a job and for people looking to hire employees. Yeah, I think it goes both ways. Absolutely. Yeah. So what's the age group of your young professional group? What's the 21 to 40. 21 to 40. So when will we start seeing young professionals run for public offices and start mixing up the profile of our leadership in the communities? You look at Prescott, most of the council, there's like one or two that are probably in that range, but most of them are older. Yeah. Prescott Valley is kind of tending to be that way as well. What I'm hearing today is a whole new perspective on what we're doing well. There's lots of jobs. We need to keep nurturing it. Right. So what would it take to get some of these young professionals to run for public office in our local communities? I think when I think of it, I immediately go, oh, I don't know anything about that. That scares me. So, and I think then you have to listen to what you just said. Yeah. Yeah. 5 minutes ago, right? I know. So it's kind of the same thing. I think it's an education piece. I think a lot of our young professionals don't know the first thing about it, don't know how to get involved with that. So I think that would be, a mentor of the public office that does maybe one of our educational events and talks about the impact. I personally didn't know much about it until I had, actually within State Farm, they have their own,
government affiliate, and what she does, her job is to connect State Farm agents with their local representatives. And so I got to sit down with 2 of our representatives a few months ago. And at first I was absolutely terrified. I was like, I don't know anything about politics. I don't know how I'm going to contribute to this conversation. And she's like, well, what you do know is your business, and you know how your business affects the community and how the community affects your business. That's what you talk about. And it was so much easier than I thought it would be. I realized I knew a lot more than I thought I did, and how that impacts, running for office and being in those different positions of impact in our community. And I think, if more of our young professionals were able to overcome the fear by getting that education and making those connections, there would be a lot more interest and a lot more involvement from our young professionals. So that's definitely a big area that we, as a community, can foster, and getting those government professionals to step in and, talk about what they do and explain it, and just little ways that the young professionals can get involved.
I might argue you already have the experience.
Maybe.
You're just not,
you're
not seeing it. I mean, if you go back to our history classes, it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Sure, yeah.
And you've been talking about networking.
Yeah.
And networking is people.
Right.
And so really our elected officials are supposed to represent the people. And so they're the liaison. Right. The elected are the liaison between the voters or the people and directing the staff. Like, the people want to see this. Right. So we're directing you to move this direction. Yeah. And so I think, like, when I hear experience, I'm like, well, I'm not sure anybody who was elected had a resume that said, I'm qualified. They're just like, no, this is what I stand for. This is what I think the people want. And so maybe we can shake up the conversation and say, you have the experience. Right. Yeah. That's and the experience is your career and the people you know, and being able to, I think, to see what the community is looking for. Like, from your perspective, what I would think would be refreshing on all levels of our elected officials is that younger mindset. Yeah. That says, hey, we got families. Right. And it's not that the older elected officials don't see it, but they're just in a different station in their life, and they might be more worried about things that affect them and their peers, where you would be like daycare, job opportunities, affordability, and that would be a nice balance. I would say you need both on council. It's not all one or the other, but I was thinking about that. When are we going to see the young professionals? That's a good point. Yeah. Because I think you bring a fresh perspective and maybe a voice that's not being heard with the right lens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I do know, like, the Prescott Chamber, they had a round table where they did have a group of young professionals that was able to kind of hear and have these discussions. So, I think that having more of that would really give more of our young professionals the confidence to speak up to what they believe and what impact they can make. I think it's just learning how to go about it, where to go about it, where and who to talk to get there.
Yeah.
It'd be a good opportunity.
Networking.
You
talk to your chamber. I mean, you're already affiliated with the chamber, and the chamber works in partnership with the community. Yeah. With the elected officials. Yeah. So there's an avenue that's just kind of a part of your organization already.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because I think you guys have an interesting voice that could be elevated in the community, and it would be helpful for the community. Make us more rounded.
That would be a really good opportunity for our elected officials to get in front of our young professionals, and our young professionals to get in front of our elected officials. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm on some of these organizations, and we talk about politics and elections, and we're like, where's the next generation? Where's the next group? Because this group will age out. It's going to happen. Right. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. Yep. Some will be good, but we need the next generation coming up behind, and to have that balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a good one to think about. Yeah. Add to our goals for the next year.
Yeah. Add to the discussion board.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Anything else about the organization that we didn't cover today that you feels like this is how we're contributing to living a good life in Yavapai County or the Quad City area?
Yeah, I think it would just be encouraging any young person that you know in your life. 21 to 40 is a pretty big group of people, but we only have about 80 active members.
Okay.
We have way more 21 to 40 young professionals in our area than 80 people.
So if they want to get involved or explore what getting involved looks like, how would they reach out and connect with you guys?
Very easily. So you can go to our website, which is prescottyp.org. You can also go to the Prescott Chamber, and there's a link that'll take you right there from the Prescott Chamber of Commerce page. There's information about our organization. There's a link to sign up as a member, but you can always come to any event. All the events are free. They don't cost anything to go to unless it's a special event. And anybody can come and explore it, check it out before they become a member, or reach out if you have questions. So you can also reach us on our Instagram and our Facebook page. We're very active on social media.
Okay.
So the core team does a really good job. We've got a specific group of leaders who have their own designation. So we've got our membership team, which will reach out. They can answer all your questions about membership. We've got our social media team, our volunteer team, our education team. So really just encouraging. I always say, if you're between the age of 21 to 40 and you have a job, you can be in the young professionals. You're a young professional. Yeah. So, you have a job, you do a job, you own your own business. It doesn't matter where you fit into that category. But if you're in the workforce, you can be a member of the young professionals. And then
you have a support group.
Exactly. And it's not only good for business, but, you'll meet fellow moms, working moms. You'll meet, maybe other people who have the same passion as you, or you'll find just good connections for your business to learn from. Maybe somebody who's an expert in marketing and you're like, I'm not really the best at that. I have a connection now. So I think just encouraging as many people as we can to come out and join us and see what it's all about. Participate in our volunteer events, participate in our education events. They are fun, high quality, great events. And then just more backing from the community. Like I said, like having large businesses that can help sponsor or help, they employ young professionals, encouraging their young professionals that work for them to join this organization, to get more involved. Not only does it help foster them as professionals within the organization that you hire them to do, but also it helps your brand and your marketing that you're involved in this. You want to encourage your team or your employees to be involved in this type of organization that gives back to the community. So we do two really big events. We did two big events this year. Both of them had big donations to nonprofits in our area, the Yavapai Casa for Kids and then the Agape House of Prescott. So we're doing everything we can to build the name of young professionals, to give back in our community. And the idea is we want to grow the funds that we offer so that we can give out scholarships, so that we can do more of these educational programs and bring in experts to speak to our young professional group. But we can't do that without growth. And growth, we need the backing of the community. We need involvement of members and businesses that want to help out, that want to support our mission, that, want to help foster young professionals, that want to be involved. That's what we're all here to do, to build a good life, to grow. I mean, growth starts individually by each individual, each organization, each entrepreneur, just one at a time. The more we can grow this, the more we can do.
Great. So events are on your website. So they can go to your website and look for events. They can probably find them on social media with Facebook and Instagram. So just connect and
connect with us. Come try it. Every one of our board members our goal is to interact with everybody new that we see. So, there's been a misconception that this group might be cliquey. That's one concern people might have with a young professionals group. And, it's definitely not that at all. Every single one of the board members, we're there to show you, because each one of us came in there and it was our first time. We didn't know who to talk to. We didn't have any connections. So it's, a big passion of mine that every person goes out of their way to connect with our new members, to teach them what this group is about. That's why we have such a great membership team, that their job is to, slowly help introduce them to the group, to take full advantage of everything we offer. So don't be afraid to come. We're going to welcome everyone immediately. We're going to introduce you to people. I always like to do a networking game to kind of help break the ice, force people to network, because it's not easy. It isn't comfortable if it's your first time. And, that's a big part of this group, is learning how to do that successfully.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Makayla. Pleasure to have you on our show and being a part of Living a Good Life.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks. Well, thank you for tuning in. And this is Brad Fain with Living a Good Life.